Greenhouse gases are species in the atmosphere that trap heat being radiated away from the Earth and contribute to global warming.
So it's really important that we have these greenhouse gas because that's what keeps the Earth warm. But if we have too much of these gas, then it gets a bit too warm, and that's where the problem happens.
The greenhouse gases are really dangerous to our atmosphere. They contribute to global warming and climate change.
We're trying to move away from fossil fuels and lots of fossil fuel-based technologies, things like petrol cars and coal-fired power stations. We've got to change now very quickly from mostly relying on fossil fuels to mostly relying on these green technologies. Green technologies are any technologies that provide us with energy or transportation or manufacturing which rely on green sources of energy such as renewable energy, electricity, rather than fossil fuels. Not a lot of people necessarily realise this, but copper is actually a really important mineral. It's a really essential part of the clean energy transition. Often the clean alternative uses a lot more copper than the dirty version.
Science, you can always see it as detective work. We are trying to find the answers. In my case, where are these gases coming from and why are they being emitted so we can stop them being emitted in the future? We need to use our sort of problem-solving skills and our evidence-finding skills to link together this small amount of information we have with the answer, with the truth. And so I think it's an exercise in problem solving that's really rewarding when you get it right. A few years ago, our research group found evidence of a dangerous atmospheric gas being emitted from China and used atmospheric chemistry and transport modelling to figure out where it was coming from and track down the source of this gas. And as a result, the work was published and this gas source was eliminated, which has measurable impacts on our future. My generation, young people, we're going to have to deal with climate change, and I think it's a really important, really meaningful field to be in at the moment.
I'm a geologist, and that means that I research rocks and I use rocks to tell me things about the world around us. So I'm working on understanding how copper deposits form, which will then help us understand where we might be able to find more, which will then provide copper that is needed for green technologies in order to combat climate change. We need people working in the mining industry who have a really clear sight of environmental protection within the mine site. So we understand we need more copper, but we also need to be mining in a much more sustainable and ecologically focused way. We need more different scientists because science is all about having ideas, and the ideas you have really depend on who you are and where you come from and how you think. And the more different people we have with different backgrounds, different experiences, different parts of the world is what we absolutely need to be getting at the moment in order to try and tackle some of the challenges that are coming up.
There's now a lot of initiatives on blue carbon. So this is the idea that the ocean can store a lot of the carbon. There are some projects to restore seagrass around the UK, which is known to store more carbon than tropical forest. I study fish in the Southern Ocean, so it's the sea around Antarctica. I look at how fish can store carbon into the ocean. So how this works is that these fish have this unique behavior. What they do is they swim up and down in the ocean every day, and they eat something that contains carbon at the surface, and they poop it out at the bottom, and that helps to transport the carbon from the top all the way to the bottom where they can be stored for long term. People might want to try fish them, maybe like eat them. So hopefully with my research it shows the fish are really important, so I can show the authorities how it's important not to harm these fish. It's more important to actually protect them rather than taking them out of the ocean.
People see science at GCSE as quite a narrow path, but I think it's not appreciated how diverse the range of careers you can go into with science. You can be in a lab, or you can be out in the field doing research, or you can be modelling at a computer, or you can be organising big international projects.
I think there's actually a lot of things that you can do when you're a school age that no one's done before, because there are so many questions out there. Maybe you're the first person to ask this question and you're the one to find the answer.
Now it's like a really exciting time to go into science because there's so much like new development in technologies. There's so many new things we couldn't do before. Who knows how much science is going to develop in the next few years.